Welcome back. If you're listening twice.
Yes, welcome back. This is episode 2.
It is episode 2.
And I thought
of It's Lights Out.
Of It's Lights Out. And
Not Lights Out.
It's not Lights Out, it's Lights Out. We had to change the name. Because there's a lot of podcasts out there with Lights Out, so we were like, let's change the name to It's Lights Out. Because he does go It's Lights Out and away we go.
He does, to be fair. So actually, we're doing it properly.
Yeah.
I think there was a horror. I think it was like a horror or some sort of detective podcast called Lights Out.
There was quite a few.
I was tempted to go to listen to it.
Were you?
Don't listen to any podcasts ever. I'm not a podcast kind of guy.
That's hilarious because we're recording one.
Exactly. But I feel like that's good. If I don't know what's going on, like if I don't know how not people normally do it, I just do it my way.
You don't have a standard.
I don't have a standard.
No. We have low standards.
Absolutely. Very low standards.
Well, welcome to It's Lights Out. This is episode 2. We thought we'd talk a bit about Ferrari.
Yep. I'm going to get your insight.
Yeah, and get your insights as well. I think that Ferrari had probably the most Ferrari-esque season, I think, of recent time that I can think of. It's a very, in my opinion, very in part with Ferrari.
There was some sad bits, but I think the main sad bit about this season was Leclerc's breakup with Charlotte. Let's be honest now. That was more gutting than the whole season.
I completely forgot about that, actually.
I think we should all take a moment just to think about that. That's sad.
Poor Charlotte, poor Leclerc. Who do you feel worse for?
Well, I don't know anything about Charlotte, really. I don't know anything about Leclerc personally.
He's a racing driver, yeah.
I know he's a racing driver, but I don't know anything about him. He seems like a really nice guy. I'm sure she's lovely.
Oh yeah, I bet she's lovely. Yeah.
I don't really know what she does. My number's 075. What?
I think she probably models, I assume.
I don't know. You tell me. Have you seen
I don't know. I don't actually follow her, so I don't know. I feel my boy Leclerc.
Yes.
No.
Back in your mate. Yeah. Well, all I've seen is a photo of her, and I thought, yeah, she's fit. Support Leclerc. You've had a stinker, mate.
Yeah. I'd say, I feel bad for both of them, but at least,
still young.
Yeah.
They're even younger than us.
Yeah. They'll get over it.
Yeah.
Both of them. Yeah.
They'll probably get back together.
Probably. There's a lot of have you seen all the comments on her Instagram and stuff? Anything she posts, it's like Leclerc.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's not great,
No.
Leave her alone.
I'd hate to be famous and then go through a breakup. It'd be the worst thing. I hate to go through a breakup anyway. But,
good save.
But I think it's even worse when you're famous.
100%. You're in the public eye, aren't you?
Yeah,
and everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah, everyone does have an opinion. And it's always I think it's the wrong opinion because they don't know what your relationship was like. So they automatically just assume like, oh, these guys are perfect. But they could have been really unhappy together in the last year.
Could have been like completely fake.
Yeah.
The whole thing was an absolute sham.
Yeah.
And we're like feeling bad for him. No, let's be honest, I don't actually feel that bad for him.
I don't feel bad for them, no.
I don't actually care. It was just a funny thing to say at the start of this episode.
Well, I feel, I say I don't feel bad. I feel bad that they've broken up, but I'm not exactly like, oh my God, my day's ruined.
Can you imagine? You just like broke down like, oh no.
It was great for the meme account though.
Yes, the meme account. What's the meme account called?
Mattia Bonotto. Which is
follow.
very, very topical.
Topical.
It's very topical for this episode.
Okay, let's get into Ferrari then, shall we?
Yeah, I when I was writing my notes up, I called it the Ferrari disaster class.
Is that what you called it?
Yeah.
I didn't put that. I just put that it was... I didn't put anything.
Because I thought it was a masterclass in how to run a team disastrously. That's not a word.
Disastrously.
Disastrously.
Yeah, I think that's the word.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
I mean, we're coming on almost 15 years since Ferrari's last World Championship, and that was 2008. They won the Constructors. 2007 was the last Drivers' World Championship.
The biggest team in F1.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah. Did you know, though, it's not their longest trophy drought?
Go on, how long?
Guess how long you think?
So, this one was 15 years to
2023. To 2008 to 2023 is 15 years.
Okay. Was it Raikkonen who got... Was it?
So
Raikkonen, it was,
Raikkonen won in 2007. And then they won the Constructors in 2008.
Who won the championship in 2007?
Hamilton.
Oh, of course he did.
Yeah.
No, but...
Hamilton won drivers, Ferrari won the constructors.
Why am I thinking about Massa?
Massa
was
won
that 2008 when Hamilton went he was was it 1 point ahead?
Isaac Glock, and then he passed on the last corner of the last lap of the last race.
Who was going slow? Who's the one who was going slow?
Glock. Isaac Glock.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah. So
where were we? What were we talking about again? Oh,
so
yeah, how long?
Yeah, 15 years. How long do you think the longest Ferrari drought for a championship was?
I would.
It
can't be that much longer.
It's not that much more.
I would say 21 years.
You nailed it.
Hey!
It was 21 years. So that was 21 years. Was the longest drought they've had for I want to say drivers' championship, and that was between that was 79 to 2000, and they won in 2000 with Michael Schumacher.
Oh, were you waiting for me to say?
I was waiting. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Yeah, no. Well, that's what I would have guessed considering the last episode. Yeah. After the last episode,
I was going to ask, and I wasn't sure if you knew, and I didn't want to call you out on it.
So was that when he won the 5 in a row? 2000 and. We were talking about the ones in a row last episode.
So 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, and 2004, 5 in a row.
That's madness.
Yeah.
Okay, so 21 years for the biggest team, and let's be honest, if Ferrari weren't in F1 would not be F1.
Yes.
Ferrari's
a massive part of F1.
Ferrari
F1.
brought for me.
Ferrari brought in so many fans to F1.
They're still the biggest. They are still
the biggest team. They get a payout every year from F1, additional to the prize money that they get, and it's known as like the Ferrari payout.
Yeah. Right. And how much do they?
So they get. I don't know the figure off the top of my head, but they get like a good chunk of money for being. Cheeky. It's called a legacy team because they've always been in the championship. Ferrari have never not been in the F1 championship.
Right.
So they get this like legacy payment.
That's
fair enough. It's basically like if you leave us, the sport will like it will still survive, but it would lose masses of money. It would lose so much money. So it's worth it for them.
But also, why would they? What like?
So they've actually threatened to leave a few times. Actually,
for what reasons?
Over rules changes.
Which rules changes?
So they were not a fan of the hybrid era. And
because they want to keep the V12s, didn't they? Was it the V12s they wanted to keep?
V8s.
They wanted to keep the V8s.
Because if you think about their road cars, Ferrari smashed the V8s. You had the 458. Your Ferrari's better than me.
458. There's the F8 that's out at the minute. The Tributo.
488.
488s.
What was the one just before the 458? It was the
430.
Yeah. We're probably saying a lot of different cars that a lot of people listening have no
Basically,
idea.
they're all fast, they have big engines, and Ferrari are a cool company.
Yeah. But I think the point I was trying to get at is Ferrari have a lot of power, but I think that people think of Ferrari as this very extremely successful team and have always been, and this is a drought, when Ferrari have had a history of getting in their own way, resulting in championships not being there. If you look at in terms of a ratio for number of races entered to race wins, teams like Red Bull and Mercedes, they smash it. Pardon me. They smash that completely out of the park.
Right.
So I think that the Ferrari has this sort of aura about it being like a really successful team, but I think they get in their own way, and I think they're really badly getting their own way. I think we've seen it this season. Because
well, let's start the season. So at the start of the season in Bahrain, they had a win. You're thinking, great, Leclerc had a win. In Saudi Arabia, they came second.
Yep, great race against Max.
Great race against Max, and then in Australia, they got Leclerc again in first.
And Max DNF'd. So
yes, they had some bad engine problems, didn't they?
I think at that point in the season, they were 70-something points ahead, were they not?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. It was mental.
Massive.
I think they had two I'm not too sure, actually. Maybe it's in Saudi Arabia. I think both Red Bulls
it
retired.
Was in Bahrain, both Red Bulls retired. And then in Australia, Verstappen retired. I think Perez still finished. But...
and then, so if you think about what were your thoughts at the start of the season when you thought, right, they've had a 1-2-1, in the first 3 races. I mean, I was thinking, oh, they're back.
Yeah,
I really was.
To be honest, I wanted Ferrari to win.
100%, because we didn't want Red Bull to win.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Red Bull fan, it's pretty hard to hear. But I didn't want Red Bull to win. I wanted Ferrari to win. Mm-hmm. I think they always say that everyone's a Ferrari fan, even if you're not.
Yeah, 100%.
It's kind of nice seeing that Scarlet Red sitting at the top of the podium.
Yeah. It's the best colour.
I think Leclerc is really, really likeable. I loved him through F2. I didn't really watch him in F3, but I loved him in F2. I thought he was unreal in F2. Mm-hmm. And I was just waiting for him to have his title shot.
Yeah.
And
you thought this was it?
I thought this was it.
Right at the start.
Yeah. And I was just really happy. And I was looking forward to a good battle as well. And then...
Which in the first race they did. They on lap 17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
They were fighting for first.
Yeah.
It was exciting.
Yeah.
It was really, really exciting. And as well, because obviously it was the introduction of the new rules and stuff. Like, you were thinking, oh, these cars are going to be... Yeah. This is going to be such a great season.
They were able to follow so closely.
Yeah.
And then you were like, okay, this is going to be an amazing season.
That was a great fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, the start of the season. So the start of the season looked up.
Yeah. Then tell me where it went down. I know you've got...
Well, then in Imola,
yeah,
they both binned it into a wall.
Yes, Leclerc went over the chicane and went into the wall.
And binned it into a wall.
Sainz lost it on the first lap or something, didn't he?
Straight into the gravel.
Yeah.
Loves a gravel. Loves it.
He loves the gravel.
He's best friends with the gravel.
Yeah.
And then in Miami, Sainz also binned it into a wall.
Yeah,
so again,
yeah,
loving it.
Yeah. Sainz had a really poor start to the season. He couldn't adapt to the car. He didn't adapt quickly enough, in my opinion.
Which is kind of, obviously the cars, the new regulations came in, so the car's obviously different. So you wouldn't have, at the start of the season, you'd have gone, you've had a poor start to the season, but fair enough, you're going to come into it, we'll hopefully see more.
Yeah.
But it still was a bad start to the season.
No, it was a bad start to the season from Sainz. Australia, he binned it.
Australia, did he bin it in Australia?
He binned it in Australia, yeah.
Did he? So he's binned it
on the first lap, I think.
So he binned it three races in a row. He binned it. Were they all his fault?
No, Miami wasn't in a row with, because he was still Sainz was fine in Saudi, didn't he? He came 3rd or 4th in Saudi.
Yeah.
So it wasn't every race in a row, but he did bin it in Australia. He did bin it in.
Well, Saudi Arabia was
and Imola.
The second race. Australia was the third race.
Yeah. Saudi.
So Australia, he binned it.
Yeah.
Then it was Imola, he binned it. Then it was Miami, he binned it.
Oh, so it was 3 races in a row.
3 races in a row, he binned it. Which actually, I need to look back and see if it's actually all his fault. I think they are.
Australia was his fault. He went offline on the first lap, I remember, because he gets to the after the high speed newly formed section of the track, he didn't get to that really fast chicane, went offline, got onto the grass, and just kind of went straight on and got beached in the gravel. I remember that quite clearly. I think he was just too desperate to try and make up places because something had happened in qualifying or something on the first.
Wait, in what race did you say that?
This is in Australia. He was like trying to claw back something that had happened.
In Imola, didn't he have? It was on the first lap. He was middle of the pack. I think he had a poor, and he hit Ricciardo. Him and Ricciardo hit each other.
You're right. Yeah.
I think they hit, and then he went onto the gravel.
Yeah, you're right.
So that might. I mean, I need to look back and see if that was his fault again. But anyway, not a great start to the season. Is basically what we're saying. No. Leclerc started off well with the first 3 races.
In Imola, he still came 4th.
Yeah. So
it wasn't crazy. Max won, but it wasn't crazy. He probably would have had like a 50-ish point lead. Mm-hmm. I don't remember.
Next race was Spain.
Oh.
Sainz ended up in the gravel. And Charles had a mechanical issue.
Yes. Well, he was leading by 20-something seconds or something. Yeah. He was very far ahead. And Martin Brundle goes, Leclerc's having a slow, like a quiet race. Yeah. And then it cuts to him and his engine's on fire.
Oh, poor Leclerc. That was just...
painful.
Yeah. That wasn't fun.
And then what happens after that?
What happens? Monaco. Leclerc. Oh, this one was a bad one. Oh, it was a bad one. He was on pole. Mm. Oh, it was so bad.
This is when they messed the pit stop.
This is when they messed the pit stop up. Oh my god. Oh. Okay. On the levels of, in your opinion, in the levels of stupidity, how far is that? How far, like, out of 10. Go out of 10. Stupidity levels. 10 being the most stupid you could possibly be in F1, and 1 being like, it was just unfortunate.
Okay, the most stupid would probably go to.
You're gonna give me a 10 out of 10?
A 10 out of 10 I am giving for Daniel Ricciardo in 2016.
yeah, okay.
That's getting a flat 10 out of 10 because that was just he comes into the pits and the tyres aren't ready.
Yeah.
That's just horrific mistake.
Yeah.
That's Daniel Ricciardo and Red Bull.
That happens later on in their season.
Yeah.
That was so hard.
Because I think that's a horrific mistake. Because also Daniel Ricciardo's radio wasn't not working. The team made the call for him to come in. He didn't come in on his own, and then the team weren't ready, which is crazy.
Terrible.
That's awful.
How you can miscommunicate that? I don't know.
Awful. I would give this a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Still silly.
Yes. Still awful. Still shouldn't be happening.
No, shouldn't be happening. But what I can't actually remember the specifics. He came in they put him on hards. Did they put him on? I thought they put him on hards.
I can't remember.
I can't remember. I think he went from.
I just remember him screaming like, "Why'd you call me in?"
Yeah, he did. Yeah, no, because they called him in, and they went, like, "Come in." And as he was going into the pits, he went, "No, stay out, stay." And then he just lost.
Because they messed up the timing, right? He got stuck behind Sainz, didn't he? Something like that.
Oh god, we need to be more.
They'd already messed up earlier, and then they called him in again, and he got stuck. Yeah. Okay. So Monaco, and then do we go to Austria? Azerbaijan, engine blow up.
Yep. Both cars were tired. Hydraulic and engine failure. God, it's not good, is it? No, it's just a race after race, one after the other. Put it this way, by midway through the season, they were 80 points behind Verstappen. Leclerc was 80 points behind.
What's that, like a 160-point swing-ish?
Explain what the hell you just said to me.
A point swing, so it's like he started off like 70-something
points. Sorry, I get you now. Yeah.
It's like a 150-point swing in the championship.
That's bad.
Crazy.
That's bad, considering, like you say, they were so far ahead.
Yeah.
In Canada, where were we? Yeah, Azerbaijan, Canada. They took an engine penalty in Canada. Leclerc took an engine penalty, but they both drove all right.
Okay. Yeah.
In Canada. And then Sainz actually got a win at Silverstone.
Yes.
Is that his first win for Ferrari?
That's when a complete strategy error on Leclerc's part.
Yeah.
Didn't pit him, and then they tried to ask Sainz to drop back and give Leclerc 10 car length space when the safety car was about to come in, and he's like, "Stop inventing, guys! Like, you're just gonna get us both past." Leclerc didn't finish 4th, but that was awful.
Leclerc won in Austria.
Yep, Sainz engine blew up though.
Yep, and I literally got written down here.
Yeah.
Sainz did manage to end up in a big fireball.
Yeah.
That's literally what I've got written down.
Yeah. Ended up in a big fireball. And Leclerc had issues with his throttle, didn't he? On the last few laps.
Yeah, and it was tight. And
very,
he was
very
going
tight.
Yeah.
Very, very tight.
He was like, guys, it's another problem. In France, Sainz had an engine penalty.
France, oh my. When Leclerc screams no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. Explain.
So, Verstappen pits.
Yep.
Leclerc had been leading. Verstappen goes for the undercut.
Yep.
Leclerc's just doing a few more laps. Takes the exact same line. Like, I watched the analysis. He takes almost exactly the same line. He was like, maybe like a hair's width off, and the car just goes. He just loses it. And it's like, straight. It was on the long sweeping corner after the 2 big main straights.
Yep.
Straight into the wall.
Yeah.
And just...
Oh, what a donut.
Yeah. I think for the fans, that was championship over.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Because that was... You kept being like, every race, you kept being like, okay, Leclerc won Austria, if you can just string some wins together. But as soon as that happened, for the fans, it was championship over. I don't think it was for Ferrari, but for the fans, it was championship over.
I remember that. That was painful to watch.
Very painful. Very painful.
So where was I? That was in France, wasn't it?
Yep.
And then Hungary, they messed up their tyre strategies again.
Hungary was awful. Hungary is when...
It was with us. Woo!
Yeah, that's what we
mentioned this last time.
Yeah. Hungary was a horrible strategy call.
Yeah.
horrible call. And that's actually where Leclerc said that's where the championship he felt went. That's when in his head he said it went. He said on TV, he said that it was in Spa, but in his head it went in Hungary, sorry. And that's because Verstappen was 10th and won, and he was 4th. Like, yeah, not even on the podium.
You should have seen the train. We were on the train back from the race. Do you remember
Yeah.
the Ferrari fans?
Were just distraught.
It was
like, why are we even Ferrari
the Max fans were absolutely flying.
Even the Mercedes fans were flying.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh yeah, of course. And then one of the guys on the train had a portable speaker.
Yeah.
Oh, it was absolute. It was so funny.
Yeah.
And all these people that were like didn't want to be there were like getting so annoyed.
Yeah.
That we were like, going
Ferrari
mental.
Hats, just like well, we were flying. We were like,
we were having a great time.
Yeah.
What a legend for bringing his portable speaker. And the train was so packed, like you were literally, we
were
were like sardines.
Yeah,
we were like stuck in, but we were just absolutely loving it.
Singing Max, Max, Max.
Yeah, Super Max. Yeah, they got the song up, didn't they? The Super Max song up.
And just the Ferrari fans hated that.
Yeah,
it's the worst.
Livid.
Thing that could have ever happened.
They were livid. That was actually one of my highlights of the holiday. Just that moment.
That train journey was amazing. It was an amazing train journey.
I was so hot and I was sweating.
Oh, it was like hot weather out in Hungary.
Yeah.
We were all sweating like sardines on this train. And then
it was humid. It rained a bit, but it was humid.
Yeah. Oh, it had rained a bit, yeah. And then this guy coming on, Red Bull fan, playing his speakers as loud as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In all of his Max gear.
Crazy.
So funny.
I think we've gone through. I feel like
so that's halfway through the season.
Halfway through the season, they've made just countless errors.
Yeah, and a lot of them pointless. A lot of them just
they could have avoided.
Yeah. So
with reliability, the reason why the Ferrari engine was so reliable is the MGUH, and the MGUH they specifically. So if you're not aware, there's an engine freeze currently that's happening at the moment. So you can't develop the engine to make it more powerful anymore, and that engine freeze happened this season. But you are allowed to develop the engine if it's going to in the aid of reliability, or if it's in the aid of saving cost. So those are the two kind of reasons why you would develop the engine.
Efficiency?
No, just for saving cost and reliability, because efficiency results in lap time. So you basically can't develop the engine to help lap time unless it's to reduce cost because of the cost gap.
And they've implemented that now.
So that was implemented at the start of this season.
The start of 2022.
Yeah. So Ferrari was smart because what Ferrari did was they were like, let's develop an engine that has stupid power. It's the most powerful engine, especially in the low revs.
The 2022 engine.
Yeah, it's the most powerful engine.
And it was loud.
Yes,
it was. The race.
If you see it in person, it's the loudest engine there. It's an unreal. It
sounded great.
Sounded amazing. Ferrari always make good sounding engines.
They do.
Yeah.
Screaming. They scream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this engine had the most power in the low end, but what they basically did was we're going to develop the most powerful engine, and we're just going to not really focus on reliability.
Donuts.
No, it's really, really smart.
Why?
It's super smart. Because
considering the start of this season with their going into a fireball,
yeah,
having other mechanical issues, it doesn't sound like that was very smart.
But think about it. You can't develop the engine to make it any faster. Red Bull can't. But they can still develop the engine to make it more reliable.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So they have the fastest engine and can work on it to make it more reliable.
That's clever.
Yeah.
That is very clever.
It's really smart.
Fair play to Ferrari.
So they have an MGUH, which is pretty much so from about Hungary onwards, I'm not sure if you ever heard the onboards of the Ferrari, especially at like Mexico and places. It sounded very high pitched and whiny. So they had to turn the power down on the engine, which is also why their performance dropped off pretty massively. It's not the only reason the performance dropped off, but it's one of the reasons performance dropped off. Because they were like, we're going to run out of money. We're just going to have to keep fixing these engines.
Yeah.
So
they took two engine penalties.
Yeah.
Before halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Before midway through the season.
But that's because you would take them. You can kind of take them at any point. So they took them at tracks that they think that they could have overtaken people at. So they turned the engine down. And I don't know if you've been seeing in the news, but there's this so-called 30 horsepower gain on the Ferrari engine. You can't make a 30 horsepower gain because there's an engine freeze.
Right.
But what they've done is they've made updates to the engine to make it reliable. So now they can turn the engine back up. So the engine's now back running at full capacity. That's what the claims are.
I see. So coming into this next season, this engine could be frightening.
Yeah. Well, it will be like the start of the season, because they ran it at full power at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And then after Spain, and then after Baku, and especially after Austria, that's when they turned it down. So after Austria, they turned it down. Yeah. Because they were like, this engine just can't handle this season. Yeah. So
that is Enzo Ferrari's motto. Yeah. What did he say? Like in the 60s, he was like, aerodynamics is for companies that can't make fast engines.
Yeah, you can't build fast engines.
Can't build fast engines. Yeah. So they're sticking to that ethos.
They have stuck to that, yeah.
They're stuck to their ethos, and they thought, I'm putting loads of power into this engine. Screw the efficiency and reliability. Yeah. Just make it super fast, and then it will come good after.
It's a really, really smart, and I don't think a lot of fans know about it. I don't think a lot of fans. Yeah.
Drop the knowledge. Boom.
Yeah, because I honestly,
drop.
A lot of people are like, oh, how can they not create a reliable engine? But if you told me you're going to have the best engine in two years' time, but you're going to have to suffer for a year,
yeah,
I'd take that.
I would too.
I would take that.
Thank you for telling me that.
No worries.
That's made the Ferrari 2022 season feel less depressing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other issues, but they were losing around 2/10 a lap.
Yeah, but we're talking just engine.
Just engine.
Yeah, whereas obviously you're going to go in shortly to the other stuff.
Where do I start?
Do you want to go into that now, or do you want to carry on the rest of the season?
In your head, what was the worst part of Ferrari this year?
The worst part?
Yeah. What
their strategy?
I was watching
I was watching because obviously I'm a more casual fan than you are. As a casual fan, you just saw strategy just kind of. Yeah. There was so many things where you were just baffled and you were like, why
have they made that decision? Yeah.
Why have you brought him in now? Why have you put on them tyres? It was just very odd. Yeah. And keep in mind, that's from me who doesn't know, incredible amounts. Yeah. Even I was thinking, watching. Very strange.
While we were at the Hungary race, we saw the Alpines pit for the hards, and they just kept dropping back. Yeah. And we were like, why would you ever put someone on the hards?
Like all Ferrari needed to do was look at Alpine and think,
and just put them on the mediums. Strategy. All they had to do was put them on the mediums. Mm-hmm. And then they came out on the hards, and everyone on the stands was like, Leclerc's on the hards. Yeah. Why is Leclerc on the hards? And I kind of understand it from the point of, I think they started the race on the mediums. It was too far to go on the softs, but they should have just extended the first medium stint. But they wanted to go medium hard rather than medium soft, or long medium soft, because they were watching Verstappen coming through. They were so worried about Verstappen, they didn't realize that their own race was being messed up because of Verstappen coming through. Yeah. Yeah. So Inaki Rueda, he's their head of strategist.
Yeah. He's been sacked.
He's not.
He's not been sacked.
He's not been sacked.
Why?
And because he's probably one of the best strategists on the grid.
Oh, really?
He is.
So he just had a stinker this season.
No, there's just so much that goes into strategy, and I think there's a lot of F1 fans think it's just one person. They think it's just the head of strategy making the call.
Well, you think? Well, surely he has the final say.
He will have the final say, but a lot of it comes down to the software, the actual operational issues of the team, which is obviously under his remit, is the operational issues and the software, the poor communication across the whole strategy team, their completely poor timing, and just bad calls from Inaku as well. He's an amazing strategist, but their whole team, that whole strategy department, is just being run really poorly. So
go into it.
Well,
fill my brain with knowledge.
Well, the most I can say is I think from what I could tell watching, it seems like communication is the worst thing. They're missing calls. They're shouting to people. People are like the actual like flow of the information is not going right from their strategy department to a person to Inaku. It's kind of like as if they're just trying to get it straight over there. They're missing the timing on things because it's taking time for those calls to get through. They're not properly analysing the data as a team. It's very much as if they kind of worked in silos and they're trying to get the information across. I think.
Do you feel like they spent most of the season being reactive, not proactive?
Yes. That's a really good way of putting it.
So you think they were reacting to the other Red Bull's strategies
the whole time. And then it became reacting to Mercedes as soon as Red Bull ran away with it. That's a good way of putting it, actually. They were so worried about what Red Bull was doing.
Instead of sticking to their guns and sticking with what their strategy was going to be for that race, they decided to go, right, see what Red Bull are doing, let's react to it. And then it's ended up...
Didn't Red Bull have. They have plan E, plan F. Like, I think... I've never heard on the radio them being like, we're on to plan E, we're on to plan F. It's usually A or B, maybe C. And like... I think back to when the team, the only period of time that I think that Ferrari team, apart from the 60s and 70s, where that team was run really well, and that was the 2000 Schumacher era, they had a plan and they would stick to it. They'd have plan A or plan B. And plan B would be safety car. Then they would switch to plan B.
Yeah.
But all they would do is stick to that strategy. And their strategy back in the day used to be pit loads of times, because they used to have refueling back in the day.
Of course.
So they'd pit loads of times and fuel up really light. Schumacher had the speed to do qualifying laps. They just send him out to do qualifying laps, then pit him again. And he'd have to just make the pit stop time up in the short number of laps that he did. And because he was unbelievable, one of the fastest, probably the fastest ever single lap, race pace, but single lap race pace driver out there. Mm-hmm. If that made any sense, I'm not sure if that did.
I think I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure I got that, but I
think
he's
probably the most talented person to ever just gun it lap after lap after lap.
I see.
Yeah.
So consistency of pace.
Consistently gun it.
Consistently gun it. Go out all out. 100%.
All out every single lap, yeah.
He's the best at. Which doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. An interesting thing about Schumacher, actually. So a lot of the other drivers said that they'd hear so when Schumacher came in the 1990s and he was driving for Benetton in 1994, the engineers were so surprised because apparently he'd be on the radio and he'd just be talking normally like this, which is what we see with drivers nowadays. They just sort of talk normally. They might get a little bit out of breath. But back in the day, that was not a common thing.
Right.
So Schumacher had this level of fitness that no other driver had, and other drivers used to be like, how is he so fit and able to like just drive and not sound like he's that? He's the reason he set the modern standard for fitness in F1. And it was just natural to him.
Lots of squats for you, bum.
Yeah. Good core. Yeah.
Good core.
Good core, good neck.
Good neck. Biggest necks.
Yeah. But Schumacher set just an absolutely unbelievable standard for fitness. But what that meant was he could just gun it every single lap. Other drivers could do it, but then they'd fatigue. But Schumacher never fatigued, and that was his main strength, in my opinion. But going back to it, going back to it, that's how the team used to be run. And nowadays, it's like they have so many different plans because they're trying to react to, if Red Bull does this, then we'll do this. If Red Bull does this, we'll do this.
I feel like Red Bull were like that when Mercedes were. A couple of years ago, when Mercedes were flying.
You would never hear Red Bull. You would never hear them being on the radio to Max being like, "We're going with Plan F."
No, but they were more reactive. To Mercedes, a bit like how Ferrari are now with Red Bull. They were more reactive.
Well, you need to be reactive because you need to be like, if they're going to go long, we'll undercut and do that.
Yeah.
But that's like Plan A, Plan B, Plan C.
Yeah.
But you've got to you have a game plan. You try and stick at it. It's just like if they've done something which is going to affect that game plan by a significant amount, that's when you then go change it. But you shouldn't be having like 6-7 plans for a race.
How can you even I wouldn't even be able to keep like I couldn't even keep 3 plans in my head about what's going on. To have like 5 or 6 in my head, I'd be like, honestly, I have no idea what plans you're talking about. I'd be like, go on plan E. I'd be like, which one's that again? I'm trying to drive, I'm trying to focus.
Yeah.
What the hell do you want me to do? Just tell me over the radio.
Literally, I don't know how Leclerc does it, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know how. You never know. He might just be like, you know what? Don't care. I'm just going to drive quickly. And they'll probably just tell him when to come in.
But yeah, I think strategy was a big issue with the car.
Yeah.
I think they were the reason why they were 0.04% of a lap faster over the course of the season. In quali was because that they could switch the tyres on in an instant. But what means when you switch the tyres on is that when you get into a race, you overheat the tyres.
Yeah.
And I don't think their race pace was good at all.
No.
I don't think that's an uncommon thought.
No. But then at the start of the season, obviously the engines, like you say earlier, the engines were turned up to max, weren't they? So they had a better start to the season. Did they eat the tyres in the first few races?
No, but I don't think the engine will affect that. It was the updates that they brought, and also the stiffer floor that the FIA said you had to, so you couldn't porpoise as much.
Yeah.
That also affected Ferrari's tyres.
Loads of problems.
Do you think? How well do you think they'll do next season?
I still don't think they'll be as fast as Red Bull.
No, neither.
I really don't. It just doesn't feel that way. I feel like they'll still be... Do you think Sainz is consistent enough?
No.
To be even in a Ferrari?
Yes. He's the best number 2 on the grid. But he is a number 2.
But he is a number 2, okay.
Yeah. But he doesn't know he's a number 2. He still thinks he's a number 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, let's...
Well, that brings me on to a great point, actually.
Okay, go on.
So I was watching an interview with the new Ferrari team boss, Fred Vasseur.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another issue I think Mattia Binotto had during his reign was he didn't want to outline a number 1 and 2. He was kind of like, I don't know if you remember in the British Grand Prix, for so many laps, Leclerc had front wing damage and was still stuck behind Sainz, who didn't have front wing damage, but they wouldn't let Sainz let Leclerc through to attack Verstappen. Fortunately, Verstappen then ran over the debris, had the issue. But actually Verstappen was coming from behind them, and then he ended up passing both of them, but then hit the damage and got the damage. Fred Vasseur has basically said that he is going to ensure that if that team orders are going to be in play. He didn't say who is number 1 and who is number 2 is, but he said that if there's a way to maximise the result on the night, and that includes team orders, or maximise the result for the championship, and that includes team orders, then team orders will be in play.
Which I think is a very reasonable
important
thing. I mean, mainly because, whoever is at that time is driving out their skin and is actually either further in points in the championship or has a chance of, gaining more points for the constructors.
Yeah.
Why would you not?
Yeah.
I feel like, and as drivers, you should respect that as well.
Yeah. Think about this past decade, who were the most successful teams?
Mercedes.
Yep.
And Red Bull.
Yeah. And then think about how they got that success. They had a clear number 1 and a clear number 2. Sebastian Vettel was number 1 over Mark Webber.
Yeah.
You have incidents like Multi-21 and all these other incidents where you weren't allowed to have team orders for a couple of those years.
Right.
And then they allowed team orders again. But it was very clear team orders there that you're the number 2 driver. Mm-hmm. Stuff like the British Grand Prix 2010. Red Bull released a new front wing for the car.
An upgrade, mid-season.
Yeah, an upgrade, but they only had 2 front wings for that weekend. So they'd managed to pump it out, managed to get the 2 front wings there.
Yeah.
They only have 2 in stock. So 1 for Mark Webber, 1 for Sebastian Vettel. Mm-hmm. British Grand Prix, it's in practice session.
Yeah.
Sebastian Vettel's front wing just breaks. Mark Webber still has the new front wing.
Yeah.
They take the front wing off Mark Webber's car and put that on Sebastian Vettel's car. And that's
bold.
This is before Sebastian Vettel's not even won a world championship, and he wasn't even leading the world championship at that point.
Wow.
And they did that. Mark Webber was ahead on points.
Christian Horner has made a very,
very bold move.
Bold decision.
And then guess who won the race?
I'm guessing it's Vettel.
No. Mark Webber.
It was
won.
Webber.
Mark Webber won. He crossed the line. And the team congratulates him, like, well done, Mark, and you won the British Grand Prix. And Mark Webber goes, not bad for a number 2 driver.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You shouldn't take that. I feel like you shouldn't take that too. Like the Red Bull team should probably just kind of let that one go over their head. Do you know what I mean?
But
make a fair point. But
they won 4 championships in a row.
Yeah.
Mercedes then came along, won 8 championships in a row. And it was very much... for the first 3 seasons, it wasn't.
Yeah.
14, 15, 16. But since Bottas came in, and since they actually had... From Bottas coming in 2017, they actually had competition from other teams. Mm. They had team orders. They had to have team
So what did Hamilton and what were Hamilton and Rosberg? Because I wasn't watching this, but Hamilton and Rosberg in 2016. Hamilton surely was still number 1, but Rosberg...
There was no number 1 in that team. And that's what caused all the issues. But there was no competition. So they allowed them to
fight.
But they tripped over themselves so many times.
Yeah.
In that season...
They went into each other, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2016 Spain.
Yeah, there's that really famous bit of when after one of the races, Lewis comes in, he's absolutely buzzing.
Yeah.
And then he just throws the hat to Rosberg on the
It was
chair.
2015 Australia, USA Grand Prix 2015.
Oh, that was 2015.
Hamilton's just won the World Championship. And Hamilton walks into the driver's parade, picks up his hat, number 1. Rosberg's hat has the number 2 on it, throws it over to him. And Rosberg just picks it up, throws it back at him. And he said that he felt like Lewis was just saying like you're number 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would if I was in like the heat of emotion.
Yeah. Like you've just lost the world championship.
Yeah, you just lost the world championship. You're sitting there, and someone goes, "There you go, mate. You're number 2." I'd literally get up and hit it.
So
I'd want to. I probably wouldn't, but I'd want to.
So there was no clear number 1 and number 2 for those 3 years, but they didn't need to because there's no competition.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying is Ferrari, it's good that they have a number 1 and a number 2 now.
Yeah.
I know Sainz doesn't know it, but Sainz is number 2. Even though he doesn't.
Do you not think he has a slight inkling?
He has a slight inkling.
He must have a slight inkling.
He's too competitive to not, and I think every driver is competitive. But we were saying this in the last podcast that Perez knows he's number 2.
Yeah.
Whereas Sainz doesn't quite yet. I'm sure he will, but I don't know how well he'll take it.
Mm. Right, should we go on to the second half of the season?
Go to the second half of the season, yeah.
So, in Spa, they took another engine penalty.
Yep.
Leclerc did. However, in that race, there was 8 out of the 20 drivers with engine penalties. That race.
Okay, yeah.
Can't remember which ones they were. I know Bottas was.
Yeah.
I think Gasly was.
Yeah.
I can't remember all the 8, but
it was a lot.
It was a lot. So
because everyone knew that it was going to be an easy track to overtake on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Sainz apparently was comfortably winning in Spa at one point, and then the Rebels just were too quick.
Yeah, I mean,
he was ahead by a long way.
Verstappen came from what? I've forgotten the position. We talked about like 14th on the grid or whatever, and won by 18 seconds or something.
Ah, silly Red Bull. And then in Netherlands, Sainz came in and he was waiting for ages. Came into pit.
Yeah.
And they weren't ready with the tyres. Again. And he was sitting there for
That's a 10 out of 10. That's a 10 out of 10.
That's a 10 out of 10.
That's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Is it?
Yeah. If the team has called him in,
yeah,
that's a 10 out of 10. If he's coming on his own, then that's not his fault. Then that's not the team's fault if he's just come in.
No, of course he can't do anything about that. He's taking, team orders, strategists again.
Yeah, what I mean is if Sainz had come in, but the team hadn't called him, then that's fine.
Oh, sorry, yeah,
the team aren't expecting it, but yeah. Okay,
that was in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
In Monza they did okay, and it was kind of just out their hands. And Singapore
the Red Bull had so little drag. It's such a quick car on the straight line.
So quick. And then Singapore was very uneventful. The Red Bulls were just quick.
I mean, at that point, the engines had been turned down on the there,
and the season was over. The season was genuinely over. And then apparently in Japan, they were kind of back to themselves, where Leclerc hit a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Sainz hit the wall, and Leclerc managed to give up his second place by going off the track again.
Oh yes, he cut the chicane at the end. Yeah,
again, yes,
got a penalty.
Ended up third.
Yeah,
because did he make the place back? He made the place back, didn't he?
Yeah, but he got the penalty.
And then he got the penalty.
Yeah. And that's when Verstappen won the World Championship on that day.
Yeah.
After the race. He didn't even know he'd won it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously the last few races, I haven't got much written down for the last few races, but it was just
I think, Leclerc said he lost hope in Hungary, but after Spa...
He's probably thinking about the next season already.
Spa, put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the season, and there were lots of problems.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of problems. Lots of going off for silly reasons.
How would you fix Ferrari?
Don't give me a difficult question like that. I don't know. You're the knowledge guy. You tell me. I'm learning. You tell me.
How would I fix Ferrari?
How would you fix Ferrari? I'll ask the question. How would you do it?
It starts outside of the F1 organisation, in my opinion.
Cool. So you're going deep.
This goes deep.
This goes deep.
So
you're about to again hit us with some knowledge.
Yes.
Go on then. I'm going to give you this space.
Yeah.
Go.
The chairman and the CEO of Ferrari have too much involvement in Ferrari, in my opinion, as a racing team. The team bosses don't have enough of control of the team. And the only time they have had control is when John Todd came in 1993. That's the only time they started to gain control. They built the foundation, and then John Todd, Ross Brawn, and Michael Schumacher was able to win. And that's the only time where the CEO and chairman, because that was when there was a lot of stuff happening with Enzo and his son and stuff, that they just said, you guys run the team. And I think that, I mean, I have it written down here because I've forgotten their names, but the current chairman is Sergio Marconi, and he's kind of jumped in 2020. He was a big fan of Matteo Binotto, so he brought him in. And then Benedetto Vigna, who's now the CEO, didn't like Matteo Binotto. And when he finally got instated...
there was a bit of a contradiction.
Yeah, and when he finally got instated in 2022, Matteo Binotto's gone. Didn't give him time to actually build the team around what he wanted to do. And Matteo Binotto was actually very instrumental to that early 2000s Ferrari success. He was the head of the engine department. So he knows what he's doing when it comes to engines. And he's built one of the best engines on the grid. So
you think it goes all the way as far as the CEO?
Yeah. The power is given to the chairman and the CEO, and they call the shots. Think about, since Toto Wolff joined in 2013, how many Ferrari bosses do you think he's seen in his time there?
I feel like I should know this.
Principles. So this is 2013, so 10 years. How many Ferrari?
5 or 6.
5.
5.
So
that's a lot of turn. Yeah. That's ridiculous even for like anything, like any sport.
Yeah. That's like football. That's like football club numbers. That's like Man United numbers.
Yes, I'm trying to think.
Must be.
Yeah. So it was.
We don't have
Ferguson into. Oh God. Van Gaal.
Yeah.
No, Moyes into Van Gaal into loads of stuff.
Yeah,
that's probably about right.
Yeah. So you had Stefano Domenicali, 2008 to 2014. Maurizio Mattiacci, which a lot of people forget about, 2014. He was only
just for one season.
He was an interim because Domenicali left early. Maurizio Arrivabene, 2015 to 2018. Very successful period for Ferrari again. But as soon as 2018 ended, a second season of being almost but not quite there, he got sacked. Binotto came in, and that was because of Sergio Marconi coming in, didn't like Arrivabene, so sacked him.
Brutal.
Binotto comes in to 2022, and then Fred Vasseur now comes in because the CEO doesn't like Binotto. Whereas...
So it's a lot of... there's so much confrontation.
Of
people liking and not liking, and
so there's just too many politics.
Yeah.
So they don't let the team. Like flourish. So
like you say, if there's no
Red
foundation,
Bull,
there's nothing's going to happen.
You can't develop the team if you're saying one thing, but the CEO is like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
The difference for Mercedes and the difference for Red Bull is both. Toto Wolff is the CEO, one of the CEOs at Mercedes, and has a stake in the company.
Yeah. A big stake, doesn't he? Quite a big stake.
He's a huge stake in the company. Christian Horner is also a CEO of Red Bull.
Yeah.
Christian Horner's been there since Red Bull started.
Yeah.
And he's not changed.
No.
So he's seen...
Why would they change?
He's seen 6. And they weren't even that successful at the beginning.
What, Red Bull?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and you look at... So the chairmans for both those companies is Ola Kalenius, who's Mercedes, and Dietrich Mateschitz, who's Red Bull.
Yeah.
When do you ever see them making personnel changes at Mercedes? Mercedes had an awful 2022 season.
Yeah.
When do you ever see them making personnel changes?
Why? But do you not think that? I mean, this is the first season, this second season, in a decade. What do you not think?
Because
Ferrari, you would keep the formula that you've had since 2014. That's one you.
Ferrari had success from 2015 to 2018.
But not the same success, different kind of success.
But they were almost...
And they're always expecting to win. Ferrari are always expecting that, even though they haven't for so long, they are always expected to win the championship.
Every team is expecting to win the championship. That's the thing.
What do you mean?
Every big team expects to win the championship. They want the best.
The main
car.
3 in the last decade, Red Bull, Mercedes,
they expect to be
and
winning
Ferrari
the
expect to
championship.
win. Yeah.
So think about Red Bull. Red Bull didn't have a very good start to the hybrid era. Dietrich Mateschitz didn't come in and change the whole team.
I see.
Right? And then in 2022, Mercedes had an awful start to the season. You didn't see Toto Wolff get booted out.
But do you not feel like...
But that's
even when you're watching it, and even as I'm watching as a fan, I had more faith in Mercedes to be able to bring something back. I still
because
do.
they've had a history of that. Yeah. But I mean, if you'd kept Maurizio Arrivabene in, where he's had a history of winning, he just came against one of the best teams ever. But he's still got lots of wins. He's still pushing them for the championship. He was the first team to push Mercedes to 2 championships, 2017 and 2018. He pushed them. And then they sacked him because he didn't win in 2018.
But didn't Ferrari have that Red Bull? Ferrari had the engine. There was in 2017. They had
in 2019 they
2019.
had that was 2019. That was after they had the illegal engine.
The illegal engine was in 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it wasn't even like they came second in the World Championship. They just missed out with Sebastian Vettel, and they booted him out. They didn't let him do it. The Jean Todt era, comes in 1993. From 1993 to 1997, that's an awful Ferrari car. If they had sacked Jean Todt at that point, and if they'd not let Ross Brawn come in, during that period of time, they would never have had that early 2000 success. But they gave it patience, they gave it time, and then it went into one of the most dominant eras ever of the sport.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You have to give people time to implement their ideas,
you have to
their
give
strategies.
Time.
Yeah.
You have to give time. And
you feel like if they were giving any of these 6 team principals, if they gave any of those 6 the time that they didn't, the early 2000s, they would have the same kind of success.
Domenicali had time. I don't think he needed more time. He had time. He got the World Championship in 2008, to be fair to him. And came close in that period, but I think his time was up with the team. Arrivabene, I think, needed more time, and I think Binotto needed more time.
Wow.
Do
you reckon? I reckon people would disagree with you with the Binotto thing, won't they?
I think people think Binotto's worse than he is. Binotto has. Think about the 2020 engine they had. And think about they went from the worst engine on the grid to the best engine on the grid in the space of 2 years.
Like you say, he was the engine.
No, 2019 was illegal.
2020
was awful. Yeah. The worst engine, one of the worst engines on the grid.
Yeah.
2022, they have the best engine on the grid. Maybe not reliable.
But like you say, Binotto was the end before. He was the
engine. But he's turned that around. I think that if you just allowed him to have a bit more time, I don't think he's the person who's going to spear Ferrari into decades of winning championships. But I think he needed more time to get the structures in place, and then someone else come in. I think that they'll make a big mistake if Fred Vasseur gets fired quickly here. I think he needs a bit more time. I don't know him as a team.
Do you reckon they're just going to keep making the same mistake?
They've made the same mistake for years and years. There's only one period they didn't make that mistake.
Yeah.
But they've made the same mistake.
So you're expecting another...
I'm expecting Fred Vasseur to come in, unless he wins the World Championship in his first season. I mean, that's not even his own work. He's not had enough time. If he wins the championship this year, that's all Binotto's work. Really. Because he's had a bit of time to implement things.
Yeah.
But everything's been... F1 works on a year lag as such.
Yeah.
So...
Interesting.
Yeah. But in my opinion, you've got a chairman and a CEO who don't spend their day racing. They spend their day thinking about the brand of Ferrari. They think about Italian newspapers are brutal. They think about all of that.
That doesn't surprise me. There's so much on weight on the shoulders of Ferrari.
They want a quick win. They want a really quick win. And you're not going to get quick wins in F1. They're always thinking about the now. They're never thinking about the long term when it comes to F1 because they care too much about the brand. But that's my hot take on Ferrari.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, for the 3rd time this podcast, not his job.
Yeah. Where do you think they're coming next season? 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th?
I think Red Bull are going to nick it.
Yep.
I just want. I don't know about Mercedes. Maybe a Ferrari 2, Mercedes 3. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, I think constructors. I think Mercedes might have it because they have the strongest driver pairing.
They do. They've got the best.
And
pairing.
they're the best reliability.
Would you be surprised?
I wouldn't be surprised if Verstappen won by a long way, but but then Mercedes still kind of win the constructors, nicking it because Perez underperforms. Because Mercedes will be there more, so Perez will come lower down. Yeah. It's a difficult to drive Red Bull.
So you'd be surprised if Mercedes won this season?
I'd be surprised if Mercedes won the drivers. I wouldn't be too surprised I would be surprised if they won the constructors, but I wouldn't be too surprised. But I think Ferrari's coming third.
You think Ferrari's third this year?
Yeah.
Mainly because you think of the change of the team principle is going to affect it.
I don't think that's actually going to affect it too much. I just think the Mercedes are going to make a bigger step over the winter because they figured out what was wrong with the car.
Yeah, and all the upgrades that they brought into 2022 was making the car faster, and
they held off a lot. They held off a lot of upgrades.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got some big upgrades because they're changing. They said that they said they figured it out about midway through. They wouldn't say what they figured out, but they figured it out.
Yeah.
And Mercedes never say they figured it out.
No.
They always downplay it. So the fact that Hamilton was saying they figured it out.
That's a very German thing to do, isn't it? It's to play it down.
Yeah.
Like anything. They just love telling you that it's
being
less
subtle. Yeah.
Being subtle.
Yeah.
Which I like, actually.
But I think, yeah.
Humble.
Yeah. I think third, though.
Third. So Ferrari third, Mercedes second, Red Bull first.
That's the safe bet, in my opinion. I think in my opinion that's the safe bet. But I'm going to say Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari.
Is that because you want Mercedes?
Yes, it's because I want Mercedes.
Okay.
But the safe, obvious answer is Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari.
Okay. Well, I want. Yeah, we know what we want, don't we?
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm happy with that. To be fair, it's gutting that I don't want Red Bull to win again, but they probably will because Max is so good and he's so used to the car, and the car's gonna only improve. Yeah. And so I think Red Bull, and then I'll go with you and say Mercedes and Ferrari.
Nice.
Great season. Oh, how long are we through now?
Yeah,
this felt like a long one.
This is a very long one. So, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
That's episode 2, Ferrari Disaster Class. I think we can call it.
I love that. We'll put that in the
title.
Ferrari Disaster Class.
So, thanks for listening to It's Lights Out, and away we go.
See you soon.
See you soon.